I don't know about advice, but motivation certainly, for a while.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. I'm going to ask the panel in a minute if you have questions that you want to ask each other before we open it up to the room. But before I do that, I wanted to ask Andrew. Andrew, you've had a chance to sit after having delivered your address, and is there anything that you wanted to elaborate on that maybe you didn't get a chance to elaborate on, or you would like to add to the discussion here?
People were starting to wonder why I was sitting here still, right? He told me to sit here and look pretty, and I only can do one. Only really that, if we all just picture a basic Venn diagram in our head, there's labor interests, there's public interests, and there's business interests. And that place where it overlaps, that's where we all need to work. That's where we started an organization from. That's where we continue to do our work from. Partnerships with organizations like NEW, like the Policy Group on Tradeswomen's Issues, like there's a variety of different community-based programs and people who care about this. So I would recommend building strong stakeholders from outside of your normal comfort zones or where you're at. Because when you do, there's a different level of cross-table accountability among a partnership. So it's a good way to start building that collaborative base. If you're working with all the cast of the same characters, you guys know each other, right? And you know where you can go with it and where you can't. But if you're working with other people, again, an encouraging example would be the revitalization of career and technical education in our country on a secondary level. That has a wealth of promise. So we got involved and pursued a grant opportunity to help support our new career and technical education facility and trying to create those direct linkages. So we do get to the place like Building Futures happens to have a direct entry agreement with many of the apprenticeship programs, and we can place with advanced standing. Wouldn't it be great if we could do that from a high school level too? So just thinking outside of the box and building a broad-based collaborative effort.
Great. How about others on the panel? What kind of advice would you have for people who might be collaborating for the first time? I know we're all in different places. Some people have been collaborating for years and they have very advanced level partnerships, and others are just starting this. How about some words of encouragement, some insight here, and where's a good place to start?
I think the Wanto program that we do and the summer program we do, it's sort of like a pre-apprenticeship for the training directors, and it prepares young men or young women to come into our programs. Not totally prepared, but definitely a lot more than they would be. I think Phoebe, you agree with that?
The pre-apprenticeship?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say go that way if you could, get hooked up with those type of programs. They've been very successful for us. It makes the apprentice coming into our program more marketable to the contractor. I know my contractors, they all want them. Same with the Helmets to Hard Hats program. That's another thing we do. The more competitive, the more marketable the apprentices are coming in to our building trades, I think your program would be more successful and a lot easier to sell to the contractors.
Sharon, you wanted to comment?
For post-secondary education, we'll have to think outside of the box, and we have several institutions that are doing that. When I met with a lot of the building and trades and the apprentices, I said, what do you want? And they said, we want to own our own business someday, or we want to go into management. And a lot of the management of apprenticeships and management are baby boomers like me, and we're going to be retiring soon. And so these people have to come along and they have to take over. So some of the things that we're doing is putting cost estimating into math classes, adding those type of things that are going to be beneficial to these people, as well as looking at what the apprenticeship is already offering in math, and perhaps we can give them a little bit more credit for what they already know that they know. Another thing is, anytime that you're dealing with education, higher education, you have to have assessments. Well, a lot of the apprentices are a little bit intimidated with that assessment placement testing, and we found that they do just as well because they already know a lot of what they're doing. they get a little nervous. So instead of going back and making them do the developmental, we've sort of combined the regular classes with a little bit of developmental and worked with the WIBs to do the Work Keys program, and if they need some help with that, we sort of do that on the side, and that way they don't have to take 3 or 4 years to get into, to go through the gen ed programs like happens on occasion, and we're trying to do better with that. We need to. So some of those things. We're also incorporating some entrepreneurial classes into some of the studies because some of the people do want to start their business, and if they do, let's go ahead and give them what they need in order to do that. So think outside the box. Don't do things as normal in education.
I would sort of summarize our challenges in two related categories. One is deepening the apprenticeship programs and efforts, and the other is broadening. In terms of deepening, I think Sharon provided a number of good examples about some of the work that needs to be taken into account. That articulation with higher education, particularly the community college system, but also recognizing that career interest and career advancement doesn't stop for the individual once they graduate an apprenticeship program and become a journey person, that they have interest in terms of continued skill diversification, skill development, especially as we see a lot of green content come into the historic home of the apprenticeship program, the building trades, but that indeed in that industry in particular, you have a lot of skilled journey people that do look at opportunities to become entrepreneurs, to become contractors, and if that can be reinforced and built upon as part of the apprenticeship experience, I think that's a very positive development. Of course, direct entry, reaching out to more diverse populations, an ongoing challenge overall in many labor markets where we see apprenticeship efforts. And this is particularly challenging given the overall, which was referenced by the first panel, the overall labor market situation. It's very difficult to maintain robust apprenticeship efforts in the context of such large numbers of unemployed, particularly in the building trades and the construction industry. That's a big challenge in our state. I'm sure that's not unique to our state. In terms of broadening, because apprenticeship has, I think, worked so well and provided employment and skilling and educational opportunities for so many and brought a lot of individuals into the middle class, we need to apply this mechanism now into industries where it hasn't rooted as deeply as it has in the building trades. It needs to be adjusted when we make that transition because the model that was developed in the building trades is not necessarily the model that's a perfect fit for other industries. That's where I reference competency-based and sort of blending of time and competency-based systems. We think that's very important in the healthcare industry, in the IT industry, in part because of the rapid nature of the development of the technologies that we're trying to educate younger individuals about. So those types of approaches, a blending of competency and time-based systems, I think will make it more relevant that apprenticeship therefore can be more easily applied in some of the sectors where we know there's a lot of interest and a lot of demand, the hospitality sector, the healthcare sector, the IT sector. It's very important. It's not going to be the same apprenticeship approach that was taken in the building trades, but we'll build off of those approaches, take what is valuable from those approaches, and then apply them in a different context. And I think that's very important work going forward because we know firsthand, particularly for the young, the youth in our communities, and particularly for disconnected youth, a major challenge in our state, I'm sure not unique to our state, apprenticeship works. Apprenticeship makes sense. It addresses the concerns of a lot of those young people that want hands-on experience, they want to make money while they're learning, and they want to be on the job, and the apprenticeship answers those challenges very positively.
Great. Go ahead, Phoebe.
I wanted to add something because I think that John really hit the nail on the head when he said makes our apprentices more attractive to our contractors. In my experience, the most valuable partnership anybody could create is one with whomever is doing the hiring for the industry. You know, who's leading the industry in hiring, who's leading the industry in technology, you know, and finding out those kind of partnerships that allow pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs and training programs, community colleges, to find out what is the industry looking for so that you can provide what they want. Because when you're I mean, what I want is a job, right? More than anything else, most of us. And you know, we need to be tailoring our, what people are learning, our curriculum, to the needs of the industry, whatever it is. So I thought, you know, that was very well said.
We've been talking about the plus side of collaboration and some of your collaborative ventures. What about the impediments that stand in the way and what we can do to overcome them? Certainly in developing your programs, there were impediments, there were difficulties that you ran into and you had to overcome. Can anyone speak to that? Andrew, go ahead.
Sure, why not? In terms of impediments in our own creation, it was a little bit simpler because I had this nice base of experience from Youth Build Providence, and we were outside of any kind of public system. We're a purely grant-funded organization, but within. So, for instance, those who work at, you know, a one-stop center, and you have an eligible training provider list, and there's a technical skill provider who's listed on that who provides technical skills around construction. You're like, well, great, here's a pre-apprenticeship partner. Do they have any connection? Is their training relevant? Are they providing that value add to the apprenticeship program like Phoebe has mentioned and others? You know, it has to be a better quality of applicant who's going in, right? So testing out our partners, I think, there's always the temptation to do business as we've always done business. And when we have people on the list, they've been on the list this long, they must be good. Are they connected, right? Are they providing value? And how can we check that? So just some of the impediments you might look at from a public workforce system element of it.
Great. Others? Sharon, you look like you wanted to comment on that one.
I was really just going to comment on some of the challenges that we have faced. And some of that is snobbery in the higher education realm. You know, that's just the fact. What we're finding is that the apprenticeship programs that, you know, that you have out there are really good programs. It's hard for some of the people to accept that. It's hard for them to say, well, they haven't gone through this, so they haven't done all of these classes that they're supposed to, and we have to have a different mindset if we're going to make this whole collaboration work. And maybe even on their side a little bit, you know, maybe you're going to have to give us an opportunity to learn a little better. Teach us, and we have done that. Roy Smith, you have really taught me a lot, I have to tell you that. And I have learned by going to the meetings with the apprenticeship meetings and the union meetings, and my mindset has changed because of that. So I guess just work a little easier together and let's play nicer, so to speak. Teach each other and have open minds so that we can learn from the other.
We've heard changing mindset, thinking outside the box. We all seem to be saying the same kind of thing. That just we can't approach this in the same old way that we've approached our problems before. This requires some new way of dealing with it. Anyone else want to respond to that question?
Well, just building upon that, I would say, you know, one of the challenges is sort of recognizing that the other partner or potential partner's outcomes are valid in the context of probably how they are being evaluated and probably how their resources are being distributed, that may not fit well in the context of sort of the outcomes that another partner may be looking for. The education, the interface between apprenticeship and higher ed, I think, is a good area where you can see those outcomes. How people are judged are not necessarily initially, in sync. So, for example, it's education attainment and the higher ed. That's the outcome that the system is motivated towards and rewarded for. In apprenticeship, it's gaining skills and applying them on the job. Then it's really looking for an employment outcome as in some ways, the ultimate goal. Both valid, not always in sync. And one of the challenges of partnership is how to be more in sync, recognizing that educational attainment is very important to that community college partner. That's how they get that's how they get evaluated. Trying to encourage them to maybe look more formally at employment outcomes and bring that into their system of evaluation. Very